Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful Sunday in April. Um, so I want to move first. Just thank all the people that have been sending us wonderful messages and keeping the communal network, the collective consciousness in place. And the collective consciousness that has been in place over the last 12, 13 months has helped, enabled individuals to navigate themselves through the rapid changes that are upon us now. Rapid changes that are upon us. So it's in the context of this rapid changes and how we navigate that I want to now bring to the from a place of self-care, which is what we've been cultivating, to looking at change as opportunity, looking at change as the potential to direct, looking at change as genuinely taking that step to try and create a life that you want. Looking at change as a gift rather than resist. And so, as we change our attitude and our attitude and perception, how we see change, our behavior changes. Our behavior begins to become, it's the inner change that leads to the outer expression. And our perception, the behaviors begin to change. And now we are in a place where we say, okay, from here, where do we go? And with the spring energy and with the equinox and with the collective consciousness moving towards this change, being changeless within the change. This is where sovereignty comes into place. Being changeless, and the words are very careful, being, not becoming, not doing, but being, presence, changeless in the change. Because you and I, we are all in the change. And so, just expanding on this understanding of change, because through this perception, through this understanding and recognizing, which is based on evidence and proof, we come to sit and reside, become, be what I will say is aligned with a level of sovereignty that is supreme. Okay, so let me break that down a bit. As we begin to go from the shallow worldviews that are kind of inherent through the culture that we have and start looking at existence for what it is, existence. Definition of existence is all that there is, including you. All that is seen and unseen and unseeable, all right, including you as an experience. And how do you know it's here? Because it's an experience. And is that experience transferable? No. It is only yours. Now, let's first look at the change. So let's begin to look around us. So first we need to experience it. So we look around us and we see, yep, every year spring comes, every year summer comes, every day night follows. Every birth has a growth and a death, dissolution. Everything seems to be in a process of change, but this change is cyclic, right? It's not linear. It's cyclic. It's like a spiral, actually. Okay, the change is like a spiral, and that expansion is based on consciousness, or it contracts. And if it contracts, it becomes more and more self-preserving, right? Ego-based. Ego-based. So We are in the process of change now, and our awareness is thankfully expanding. We know much more now than we knew before. So if you remember back in the day, all those pesky conspiracy theorists who were telling us, look, 2 weeks is going to go into months and it's going to go into years. There's going to be passports, there's going to be vaccinations, and so on and so forth. And and it was wholly dismissed as fantasy. Yet we are living it. Yet we are living it. So there comes a point when denial becomes your illness. Denial becomes your illness. And you don't see the change because the change is taking place while you are concerned with yourself. So through the fear, we contract, go into the self. As a result of that, change is taking place that goes unnoticed in our safety. Now, this is where we are at this moment. And so we've got to look at it from, okay, what does it mean to me? What does it mean to me? How am I relevant to this change? And even if I am relevant, I couldn't care less, because all I'm really worried about or concerned about is self. Because ultimately, our attention always goes to the self, or may goes to the self. And in inspecting that, we discover through meditation, through stillness, through cultivating stillness, going beyond the changing, the changing sensations, the changing breath, the changing thoughts, the changing emotions, the changing events, the changing judgments, the changing formations of within our mind. When we are totally in awareness as the experience, then we realize that there is a changelessness which is witnessing the change. And this changelessness is what you would call your home. It would call your inner space. It would we call your inner knowing. And it's not a concept. It's not a knowledge. It's experiential. Experiential. Why is that relevant? The reason that's relevant is that if we look at the change around us, all that is changing around us, we begin to recognize it first, right? And we recognize it within ourselves too, that once we were a child or once we were an embryo in a mother, we recognize that we too are in that change. We recognize that. So first is to recognize, to see it with your eyes and to recognize it. Step one. The second step is, once you've started to recognize it, is to then begin to understand it. Why does it happen? What are the forces behind it? Which direction does it go? Is this change random, or is this change pattern? Is there a pattern to it, or is it just random? And we begin to use our critical thinking, mind for what it is, and we begin to investigate, and we see that there is a pattern which is cyclical, right? One after another after another. The seed becomes a plant, becomes a flower, becomes a fruit, becomes a seed. That process is in everything. It's cyclical. The clouds, rain becomes the sea, evaporate, and so on and so forth. Cycles. With carbon dioxide, oxygen, cycles. Everything is a cycle. As we begin to recognize that there is a cycle, this cycle enables the existence to exist, right? Existence to exist. Think about it, right? Say if things didn't change, then all the people that were born today and all the people that died today, so let's just say things didn't change, all the people that died today, or all the things that died today, and tomorrow that would double, and the day after that that would so and so forth, and soon enough you wouldn't have anywhere to keep this stuff. So change is necessary to keep existence going. Okay. Now, from your own subjective experience, nothing will change unless you intend it to change. All right. So, for example, you have a thought about making some coffee or tea. The thought is accompanied by your intention, wanting to do it, your will, wanting to do it. That energetic urge which drives you to go and do that, right? So at that level, that has to be activated in order for you to do something. So you realize that, okay, if that's the case, for myself is an intent, an intention. And then we can say, well, if all of us decided that we don't intend tonight to become, to go from daylight to night for today, we don't. And we all wish that to be the case, it will not change. So there is another intention which is beyond our capacity. There is another intention that is greater than our intention because it doesn't care. It does what it needs to do. So at one level, that intention could be the official lockdown stuff, the COVID virus and all that stuff. So it could be that. It could be that one intention. That could be a global intention, and this is it for public safety or whatever. But then there may be another intention beyond that, which enables that to happen. And so as we move on, we begin to recognize, looking at the enormity of existence, that change is necessary. It is that from which a fractal pattern that is perpetual, and that fractal pattern exists as a wave. So fundamentally, it is nothing more than a vibration, a wave, a frequency, a set of frequencies, and that is conscious of itself. Why is it conscious of itself? It's because when you cut a tree or you go towards harming something, there's a reaction to it. So it has a consciousness to it. It has an awareness to something. And this awareness is at different capacities, right? So someone with hyper awareness, someone who's been practicing a lot of martial arts, hyper awareness, someone who's been meditating for a long time, hyper awareness, have a much wider field of awareness and what's related to what. Whereas those who would be consumed with their own kind of space will only have awareness of what's going on with their head at best, and sometimes what's going on in their head and in their body, right? Rather than the fact that everything is subject to change. And while we remain in that, we may miss what's actually going on, and most importantly, miss this opportunity in life. This life will not take place again, and these opportunities will not exist again. And your life and my life, my friends, whatever you may want to think, is nothing more than a moment of awareness in this moment. Nothing more than that. You can claim to say that you have a past. You can claim to say you have a future. But the reality is, your and my existence is like a razor blade's edge. It's beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the causal body. It is a presence. And that presence can only be known as awareness. Yeah. So when we try and add this word awareness in, it's important to see it subjectively. That when you sit within yourself, there is a presence. You are that presence. That is what you are. That is your ultimate reality. Everything else is subject to change. That is not subject to change. That becomes your grounding. And in that, we align at an individual level with a much broader intention, a more supreme sovereignty, I would say. That means sovereignty means having the ability to do something over another, right? Having the ability to exercise an order, exercise an intention. And this exercise of intention, that supreme exercise of sovereignty, has an intention. Why? Because we can see it. We have rational thinking, critical thinking. We can experience it. And in that experience, when we go within, we experience that we sit changeless in the change. And in that alignment, our expression of how we are, what we are, how we behave, how we speak, how we think, right view changes, right thought, right speech, right action, everything changes. And it becomes your external expression. So, how do we participate in this? By aligning ourselves to that awareness, presence within us, in which we recognize the unchanging presence that we are. That root, that form, that is timeless, that element in us, and it may be just momentarily, but it's enough because it's your experience, it's your hand in the fire. And in that, we begin to recognize and cultivate a trust, knowing that yes, this change is here. Maybe the time has come to play in the change, to play in the change, to see the magic and the majesty of change, to see the wonderful colors of change, to participate in change, and to realize that all this change is taking place. You have an opportunity to either participate or just keep watching until that moment goes. So, with those thoughts for our eternal presence, let us move towards our meditation. So, if you guys can take a comfortable place, I will do the same. And make sure that your back is straight and upright. Gently closing your eyes, closing your mouth. Ideally, if you can't breathe through your nose, then of course, keep your mouth open. And take it at a very slow pace. Enjoy the show. So as we breathe in, we begin to become aware of our internal climate. So we can notice perhaps some aches or pains or sensations within our body. Just see if you can notice anything. And whatever you can notice is the awareness. The awareness is doing the noticing. So you notice an ache, a pain, a tightness, an itch in your body. See if you can locate one. Then take a moment to notice the kind of thoughts you're having or have been having. And if there isn't a thought, just saying something to yourself, you will see. Just repeating a word, a name, a mantra, satanam, anything. As you mentally repeat it, you become aware of it. See what else is going on in your mind. Then take a moment to notice how you're feeling. This is called the check-in, something that we can do every day very quickly. Become present to what's going on. Just to check in. How do I feel right now? What is my experience? Pleasant, unpleasant. Dukh, sukh. Dukh meaning suffering, sukh meaning absence of suffering. Now take your focus to the seat you're on, or wherever your body makes contact with the ground, and begin to notice how well you're supported. So let's embed ourselves where we are. So you notice that you exist with everything else that exists around you. In other words, if the ground wasn't there, you couldn't be held in place. If the warmth wasn't around you, you wouldn't feel warmth or cold. And if the air didn't surround you, you couldn't breathe. So you begin to notice that you are embedded within an environment. Noticing the ground that supports you, noticing the air that sustains you, and becoming aware of the environment around you simply by listening. And bringing your focus now to the seat or wherever your body makes contact with the ground, and begin to notice the sensations where your body makes contact. Just becoming aware, noticing them, noticing the sensation. You don't need to name it. You don't need to define it. You just need to become aware of it. And then bring this awareness up towards your hips. And now you have some awareness of your hips. This remarkable body that keeps it going. And as you breathe out, bring your focus down to your thighs. Again, notice any sensations that are dominant. And then from your knees, move your focus down to your ankles, feet, and then the soles of your feet. Bring your focus back to the seat you're on. As you breathe in, bring your focus up towards your lower back. Breathe in up towards your middle back. Up towards your shoulder blades. And then notice your shoulders. Pull them back a little bit. Bring your focus to your elbows. Gently moving down towards your wrists. Notice the palms of your hands. Moving to your fingers. Bring your focus now towards your eyes. Notice the darkness, or whatever you can see, whatever you have awareness of. The fact you have awareness, see if you can recognize that. And notice you can become aware of the back of your head. Awareness around the back of your neck. So this awareness extends all the way to the back. Relax your eyes. Move to your tongue. Notice if it's firm. Allow it to soften. Notice the sensations in your mouth. And as you breathe out, allow your face to relax. As you breathe in, bringing your focus back to yourself. And just take a moment to notice your whole self as best as you can. Sensing yourself. Now gently bringing your focus just beneath your nose. Begin to notice the changing nature of your breath. Witnessing the change and not the breath. Notice how the in-breath changes, it begins, continuously changing until it ends. And then it stops, and then an out-breath continually changing from the start all the way until it stops. And then the cycle begins. See if you can notice the change. Connecting to the change as it's happening. The in-breath changing to the out-breath, the out-breath changing to the in-breath. While this change is happening, there's no intention. You are not making this change happen. So there is a greater sovereignty, authority. And we can call this biology, we can call this nature, but focus on the change. Notice that the change is also directional. The in-breath comes inwards, the out-breath goes outwards. opposite directions. So we could say the in-breath could be a creative phase, the out-breath could be a dissolution phase. So this change has creation and destruction as two sides of the same coin. Stay with the change. Your focus just beneath your nose, witnessing the change as the breath moves inwards, as the breath moves outwards. Notice that there are two parts when the change stops. When the out-breath completely stops, then the in-breath begins. And then it stops. See if you can notice those two parts. Aware of the change. Notice how the continuous movement of the breath also changes the sensation that you experience. Does the breath feel warm or does it feel cool? The changing in sensations. Stay with the change. Notice that the in-breath has a sound as it comes in, and the out-breath has a sound as it comes in. Try and listen to your in-breath and out-breath. Notice the change in the sound. Listening to the change. On your next breath out, hold your awareness, allow it to gently open, and allow the sounds around you to come to you. And as you begin to notice the sounds and the noises, notice that they're all changing. Like the changing sound that you will listen and hear now. Notice as sound changes, silence does not change. While sound changes, stillness remains unchanging. Bring your awareness to the experience that you are uniquely having now. What is your experience? Notice that there's only you who can have your experience. Singularity. Your experience is your experience. Cannot be shared. Notice while you, the witness, remain unchanging, everything that's being witnessed is continuously changing. Your breath, the environment around us, the universe, the solar system. Everything is moving through this change. Start, middle, end. Yet you remain unchanging as the awareness. And that this awareness has a creative presence. That you're able to become aware of all phenomena because of the body that you have, the senses that we have. But without awareness, it's all redundant. You're aware and you're a creative consciousness flowing, like I am, like everything is. Notice the peace, notice the stillness. Notice the absence of fear and hate. Is there any notion of time? The eternal now. The eternal now that connects you to all the nows that ever were and all the nows that ever will be. Grounded, merged. And this moment of now does not take birth, does not die. It is always now. And it is not that you are present in the moment. It is that you are presence. Singular, alone, yet the whole stands with you. Alone, yet you become the whole. sovereign in your strength, sovereign in yourself, sovereign, inner authority, presence. Gently bring your focus just beneath your nose and just sit with your breath. When you're ready on your next breath out, expand your awareness, include your whole body. Notice you're still sitting on the same place you began, held in place. You can sense your thighs, your knees, all the way down to your feet. You have awareness of how still the body feels. Bring your focus back to the seat you're on. Notice how straight your back feels. Notice your shoulders, arms, hands are comfortable. Bring your focus to your eyes. Notice they're closed and relaxed, as is your mouth, and how relaxed the face is. Bringing your focus back to your breath. And now as the breath comes in, begin to notice the sensation in your body and how that changes as the breath goes out. Notice how the breath changes the sensation within you, how the sensation within you changes as the breath goes out. Grounding yourself, observing the change. When you hear the next bell, use this bell to draw a few deep breaths in, and then in your own good time, gently opening your eyes. Thank you for participating. Know that we are change, aligned to that supreme change that is taking place. The very recognition draws us into it. It is an organic process, but it begins with first recognizing it. So may your change brings you many fruitful things, and may everyone's change be one of health, wealth, prosperity, communal well-being, compassion, contentment, those kind of things. Thank you very much for being part of this. Your collective participation has a huge impact on our collective consciousness. Don't underestimate it. Time will tell. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be peaceful, may you be safe. Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Fateh.